It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out of my mind. It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. I'm putting you out, trash day, I'm putting you out of my mind. Now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up the house. Taking all your garbage, taking all your garbage,
And welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Spotlight. I am your host, Mark the Mark Martinez, and it is that time of the year. Yes, this is the return of our good friend, Vinny Berry. Vincent Berry, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that got Lance Von Erich out of his house to do a book. Well, Vinny has brought another book to the shelves, to the internet, to wherever the hell you want to buy it. Probably from his website, I would bet. And we'll find out all of that here in the interview. But I got my copy already. It is awesome. It is called Wrestleville, the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1. There's like 35 stories in here, just short stories of wrestlers. And we'll get into it into the interview, who's in it, because there's some I want to talk to Vinny about. But this is a must-buy for wrestling fans. It literally was a year ago that Vinny was on promoting Lance by Chance, and then we had Lance Von Erich, the very first interview with Lance Von Erich out of, wherever he was. Go back and listen to the interview. You find out all that, too. That's just a teaser. That's what we call teasers in the podcast world, guys. Go back and listen to that because it was amazing. Lance actually was really excited with us to come on to the show because he liked us for some reason. Thank you. I don't understand why, but thank you. But this is about Vincent. This is about Vinny, our homeboy, and he's going to tell us everything about Wrestleville, the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1. So if there's Volume 1, he's got shit in the hopper, so Volume 2 is going to be around. That means he'll probably want to come back on the podcast again. That's just the way Vinny is. He really is. But again, we'll get into 35 short stories, a ton of pictures in this book. I ran through it about a day and a half because I had some stuff to do. Man, these are great. The pictures are in there. I've actually done some research about some of the events that's in this book as well. We'll get to it. I know. It's a drinking game when I say we get to it. I understand that, guys. So Vinny's going to be coming on here shortly. I'm going to give him a call, but you have to do one thing first. You have to listen to Collar and Elbow ad from Al Snow. Hats, hoodies, tees, all that sweet stuff that Collar and Elbow Wrestling has. And we can save you money for this coming Christmas season by using the promo code CANCRUSHERS. Capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers, all one word. You'll save 10% and you'll help out the podcast as well. So Al Snow is going to tell you about more of Collar and Elbow. Don't forget to check out all our links as well because you can buy some Can Crusher merch as well. It'll get to you by Christmas as well. 'Tis the season, guys. I don't understand where this whole Christmas thing came from, but I'm actually in a Christmas mood today. I just heard Dominic the Donkey. If you don't know that, search up Dominic the Donkey. Best Christmas song ever. Here comes Al Snow. Vinny's on the line, so we're good to go when we come back to talk about Wrestleville, the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
And welcome back to Can Crushers, guys. I told you Vinny's on the line, and he's there. He is like freaking Santa Claus. Every November you come on the show to peddle your goods, Vinny. How the hell have you been?
I am doing great.
You are doing great. And before we get to your new book, which is called Wrestleville, the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Couple things I want to talk to you about. Your prior book, which you still have some, I'm sure, Lance by Chance, right?
I do.
You do. How did that go for you? How do you think that went over? Because on Can Crushers, it is one of the top 5 most listened to podcast. Not your interview, by the way. I love you, and we're going to take shots at each other all night because, guys, he's truly a friend. We've never met in person, but Vinny, right? I feel you're truly a friend.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. We've talked many times, just not for interviews. Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
So I'll throw you under the bus under everything. Your interview was like, oh, great, Vinny's on the show. But when we had Lance on, the very first interview out of his hovel, that's one of the top 5 podcasts that we had out there. The book sales, did they blossom? Were they awesome, or what you expected? Did you have like 2 or 3 runs of the book, just to give everybody an update?
I haven't had 2 or 3 runs of the book. I will say this, though. I was pleasantly surprised, and because I did so well, my wife is going to let me keep on writing books.
That's check number 1. That's check number 1 by the wife.
Because the deal was you make your money back and you can keep on doing this.
Well, there you go. You made it back then, clearly.
I did.
Do you still chat with Lance at all once in a while?
Well, every once in a while. We haven't talked in a little bit because I've been knee deep in this project that we're about to talk about tonight. But I'll be in touch with him. We talk around. We always talk around the holidays, or we have in the past. So I would assume that we've did some messaging a little while ago, but I've been, like I said, I've been kind of crunching, trying to get this book done. So.
Well, send him our love, honestly, because we enjoyed having him on the show. A wonderful guy, and if I ever get anywhere near here, I'm going to tackle him and give him a hug, because you know, Vinny, I'm a hugger.
I do. I do know this.
Yeah, you do.
I'm a hugger too, though.
Right. We've hugged over the phone several times.
Yes.
We have. All right.
Yeah, and they haven't been able to pry us apart either, so.
I know. That sounds, now we're really getting knee deep in everything, huh? So you brought this up that you had to, and I have to talk about this now. You essentially made your money back and you're good to go, if not more, whatever. I don't care about any of the money side. You tell your wife, hey, I'm starting book number 2. What does she tell you? You're crazy.
No, she said, hey, if you're, if this is what you want to do, I mean, she's known me for 23 years. Writing has always been a part of, of what I've done. So it's been consistent, a consistent thing. So for me to finally, to step out and, put my work out there, I think she's pretty pleased that, I'm doing something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, and you can see it in the Lance by Chance book, and then you can definitely see it in this Wrestleville, the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1. Am I saying that correct? Is it called Wrestleville, the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1?
Well, the book title is the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1. The Wrestleville is my company, my brand. So you can't go wrong. It's on the book. So, I mean, but yeah, it's called the Pro Wrestling Vault because you don't know what's in it until you open it.
And you really don't. Because first and foremost, as soon as I got this book, and Vinny, again, once again, a wonderful human being, sends me a free copy of it. And as soon as I open it up, on the cover, man, I wish I had this cover years ago, Vinny, because I want everybody on this to sign it. Harley Race, The Rock and Roll Express, C.W. Anderson, Tim Storm, Tracey Smothers, Bobby Fulton, and the list goes on. I mean, I'm like, man, this would be an awesome picture to have signed and have hanging up in the studio. So, Vinny, why didn't you do this earlier in life? Now that I'm mad at you now. No, I'm kidding. But this is a great picture. This is amazing. And then, the back cover has some wording on it and everything. And I didn't know this. This is your tagline. Where is Wrestleville? Wrestleville is everywhere. It's where wrestling lives. I Touche, brother. I love that. I love it.
Thank you.
So,
thank you. So this book is this book kind of came about on what kind of a book would I go for?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I kind of, thought about the things that I like in a book. And, I didn't recreate the wheel here. There's been compilation books done many, many times. But I like this book. This book is special to me because not only does it have wrestlers in there that I grew up watching and who I respect, but it has up and coming wrestlers that people may not know that are going to get exposure and going to be introduced to people, that like wrestling, but may not know people in the independent scene. It might reach people who maybe watch WWE or AEW every week, right?
Right.
But, I love the independent scene, and I just love when matches come to my town, or when I can go somewhere close enough or drive to where there's a show. And that's what I like. I like independent wrestling. So, I wanted to create something where people can, like I said, where wrestlers can get exposure and where people can find out, like, wow, who's this guy? I sent the book up to a guy in Connecticut, and he's like, man, I'm discovering all these people that I've never met before, or wrestlers that I've never heard of before, and I'm looking them up. I'm watching them on YouTube, and that's the whole idea, is to show people that there's a lot of people out here grinding it out on the independent scene.
I did the same thing. I know a lot of the guys in this book, but what I was doing, because there's a ton of pictures in this book, but there's also pictures from shows. Like, I just flipped to Central All-Star Wrestling in Callaway, Florida, June 10th, 2016. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I know that person. I know, oh my God. So then I go back and I pulled up the card, because you can find cards, the events online. So I wanted to see who all was on that event that maybe came from here, or, and then I look at this whole organization and federation. So you have me nerding out over this book that, and I don't want to say there's only 35 stories in it, because they're quick stories. They really are quick stories, but it's the pictures that I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have went to that event. Or WrestleCon in 2016 was in Dallas, and I'm like, oh man, I got to get down there sometime. There's just so much that I'm linked to some of these stories because I remember them as childhood stories, but then there's more that I don't know anything about, so I have to do my own research. So this is a reference book as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the pictures, there's about 400 pictures in the book, and they came from my friend John Paul LeBlanc. He's a photographer from New Orleans, Louisiana. He covers the Gulf Coast region of the United States when it comes to pro wrestling. And this was a collaboration of the two of us. And he loves wrestling just as much as I do. And he's excited about this project just as much as I am. And he likes the fact, too, that, he was telling me yesterday, he goes, this is the who's of wrestling in this book.
Sure as hell it is, yeah.
You can find almost anybody in that book.
Yeah.
If not a story, but in the pictures, that there's a picture in there of Keith Lee, AJ Styles, you've got Rob Conway in there, and you've got like the Boogie Woogie Man, is in there, or you've got Jimmy Valiant, you've got all these pictures of all these guys throughout the book, and it's kind of neat to see all these people.
Yeah, legends to up and comers is best way to describe this in this book. So let's dive into it a little bit. And we're not going to give any of the stories away because that's not what we're here for. We're here for you to pump it up and buy it, and we'll get to all the price points and everything and where you can find it at the end of this interview. But Vinny, I want to know, how the hell do I get a hype man like Kenny Casanova? Because he made you sound like you are the greatest writer in the world in his foreword.
Well, Kenny Casanova is my mentor.
He's your homeboy.
Yeah, he helped me. He really guided me through this process. He really helped me in just so much with the Lance by Chance book. I don't know if I would actually be here with him. I might be here without him, but I'd be at a lot slower pace. You know what I'm saying? He was a big help to me, and I couldn't think of anybody else really to write the foreword to this book besides him. You know, he was my first choice because I have a lot of respect for him. He's got a lot of great books. He wrote the book about Kamala. He just put out a book with Just Incredible. He wrote Brutus Beefcake. He wrote Vader, Danny Davis, and he also wrote Sabu's book. So, I mean, he's got some really awesome work out there. And, like I said, I just couldn't think of a better person to write the foreword for me than him.
Yeah, and he does a great job in it. And again, I'm just throwing you under the bus because I loved it. When I was reading that, and I'm like, yeah, Kenny knows Vinny real well. Like, you can tell the passion that he's writing about you, and he knows how much you love wrestling, and you guys have collaborated before and everything. So, kudos on that. And then...
And he doesn't like when I text him at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh. Right. And you've been known to text people random times.
I do.
You do. You're getting very up to date on texting and doing everything a lot better than last year. You're all about it.
I'm too all about it.
You are too all, but you live it now. So how did you get all these stories? They are your stories, right? You personally got every story in this book. You didn't have me go do any work for you, right?
Right. I actually reached out to the people in the book and told them what I wanted to do. I wanted to write a story. I wanted to share a little piece about them. The stories originally went up on my website. I can assure you, not everybody read them. I don't get a lot of hits on my site, but I wanted to share them with a different audience. I wanted to put them in a book, and I wanted to, like I said, reach a new audience of people who love wrestling. And the stories in the book, we've got stories in there with Tim Storm and Greg Anthony. We have a story in there of Bobby Fulton, Harley Race, Sean Hernandez. I don't know if your viewers know who he is, but
oh yeah,
he's awesome. He did some TNA work on TNA, AAA, and he travels internationally quite regular, and he's a great guy. I've run into him a couple times at shows, and he treats me really good, really nice guy. Got a story of Bushwhacker Luke in this book. We have Wardell Walker, Chaz Taylor. We have a story on Chaz's dad, Tugboat Taylor. We have a story in here. There's a total of 3 NWA World Champions in this book. Harley Race is in here. Tim Storm is in here. Mike Rapata is in here. And I don't know if a lot of people know him, but he was world champion, NWA world champion in what I would kind of call like the dark times of NWA.
The transition, yeah.
In the transition times. And we've got 5 NWA junior heavyweight champion stories in here with Ricky Morton, Chase Owens, Eric Andrews, and Mr. USA, and Barrett Brown. So, there's some neat stuff in here. There
really is. There's a couple that I want to touch on. Chaz Taylor, the first story in the book, he brings up about working with his dad and just getting to work the company because people didn't show up for a show. And I'm not going to give all the stories away, but, he just literally got thrown into the ring. And then he tells a little bit about Owen Hart. So I always, anytime I can bring up Owen Hart on anything, he says how, he was just a great man in the back and he kept the whole locker room. So again, those tingles. And I go back to Owen's accident and, it just, these short stories just bring back so many memories for you of, it might not be that day of knowing Chaz, but he'll bring something that Owen, and then you go off in your own little world thinking about stuff, right? This is a great book for that.
Absolutely. And another thing, I don't know if you noticed, and what I like about this book, and I really didn't see it until after I went through it a couple of times, how the book throughout the chapters kind of segues to each other. Did you notice that?
They do, but it doesn't. And that was actually my next thing on my notes, that just like Lance's book, you could pick this up if you just get it in the mail tomorrow. You pick it up and you turn to page 130, 128. Boom, you're starting with Sean Hernandez. His whole story of what you have is right here. If you go and you have to take a crap and you go back and you turn to page 38, you have the 2017 tag team inductees, Larry Hennig and Harley Race. Like, you don't have to read this book front to back. But I don't know how the hell you did it. You did it again, Vinny, because it continues to tell a story by putting all these stories together.
That was
not planned.
That was not planned, but that was the magical part about it. When I sit back and you can see how, Chase Owens' story links to Ricky Morton's story, how Chris Michael's story links to Tracey Smothers' story, how Barrett Brown and Eric Andrews and Mr. USA's story link together. It's just really neat how that happened,
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, I read it from front to cover in a day and a half because I got pulled away from it one night, but then I finished it the next night. Easy read, guys. Easy read, and it's just take your time reading it. Like, enjoy each word is the way I did it. I just sat in the studio, closed the doors in the studio. Wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm reading my new Vinny book. She's like, "Oh God, here we go." Now I'm like, yeah, and I just closed myself off and just enjoyed it, and then take a break in between, a couple, and just think, I'm like, wow, man, that's cool. I literally 8 hours just engulfed myself into this book. And if you're a fast reader, you're good. You can read this definitely in more than 8 hours. But I enjoyed it, and I tried to relive everything that I could in my mind about this book, and that's what I love about it.
Wow.
Vinny, have you ever been to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
I have not. I've attempted to go a couple times when I was up in North Texas, and I just haven't been able to swing over there. It's about a 3-hour drive or a 2.5, 3-hour drive from North Texas from where I stay when I go up there.
That's not bad. I mean, I'm looking at trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to crash on your couch and make that 3-hour drive then, because in 2019, and this story isn't in the book, but Johnny Mantell brought some of the stuff to WrestleCade 2019, and he had a little corner that he showed. And I'm like, oh my God. And just that little corner, I was in his booth, so to speak, for 45 minutes. I could only imagine going to this Hall of Fame, which is a legit brick and mortar Hall of Fame where you can go in. It's not like WWE's Hall of Fame, and you get to look at all this memorabilia and stuff and contracts and everything. Vinny, that's what I want to do with you. I would love to do that with you. Make that happen.
That would be awesome. I would enjoy that very much.
Yeah. So we'll have to see after the holidays and everything, and then hook up and go to some indie shows. Mission Pro Wrestling's down around your area too, right? Thunder Rosa's, and you're good friends with her.
Well, I mean, we know who each other are. It's not like we have dinner at each other's house every weekend, but yeah, they put on a great show. All the people that work for her are just wonderful. They're the great talents and great people.
Yeah. Other stories that you brought up, and there's people that have passed away. Like you said, Harley Race is in this book. And when you talk to him, it just made me think about how much he loves the business and what he did for the business. And I'm like, I teared up about that one. And then Tracey Smothers is too, because I've been talking to his daughter to set up an interview, Jessie, for a while. And it's just how much he gave back to the business. Like, he didn't need to go to ECW to do the things that he was already doing. He went to ECW to make that roster better. And because in my heart of hearts, Tracey Smothers is not an extreme wrestler. He was a harder wrestler, he did blood matches and stuff like that prior. But when he went to ECW, he became, FBI was a little comedic to me a little bit. But he was there to be a trainer, to be that role model for that whole young roster. He didn't need to do that. And then he did it after ECW too. Sorry, go ahead.
And well, I'm still interviewing guys after that story, after I wrote that story. And I'm still interviewing guys that tell me about the influence that Tracey Smothers had on their career. So, Chris Michaels talks about it. Jeremiah Plunkett talked about it. And it's just, that was what he loved to do. Going back to Harley Race, when I got in contact with him and talked to him, I talked to him. I interviewed him for that story with Larry Henning, the tag team inductees, and talked to him one evening. He told me the next day to call his school and ask for a specific person, and they would email me a picture. So I did that, and the next day when I called the school, Harley answered.
Oh, wow.
And so I started chatting with Harley again. You can, he had such a distinctive voice, right? So when he answered the phone, I knew who I was talking to.
Right.
And I just reminded him that he talked to me last night, and I was calling for the picture. We talked for another hour and a half.
Well, it was at the school.
Yeah, and while he was at the school, and he told me the story of, how he started training and that he left school because he wanted to become a wrestler, and
he punched his principal in the face.
Yes, he punched his principal in the face, and he told stories of Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. And when I got off the phone with him that day, I was like, "Hey, thank you very much for taking the time. I'm glad I called." He goes, "I'm glad you called."
Wow.
He goes,
"That's awesome."
And that just told me how much he loved talking about wrestling. It was like that he really loved it. It was something he lived,
You can see that in all the stories too, that everybody in this book wants to give back. Everybody wants the business to be better, to continue to grow. And you read this in all the stories in the book, and it just, Vinny, you hit it out of the ballpark again. You really did. I don't want to give much more away, but I do want to touch on a couple more things as you finish the book. And we talked about this for a brief second before we started the interview. The last thing in this book is a picture of Daphne that is remembering Daphne and the suicide prevention number there. And my co-host and I, literally the show after she passed, we spent 45 minutes on her talking about, when we were younger, we didn't understand her, but then we got back into, watching her stuff and everything. So, Vinny, why'd you put Daphne in this book?
Well, she passed away as I was working on finishing up the book, the formatting process. So I was kind of going in there, going through the white spaces and just adding pictures where I could. And the news of her passing really upset me. And it just something I just couldn't stop thinking about or talking about. And me and my wife were talking about it, and Daphne was young and just so talented, and I don't know, it
hit a different way, didn't it? Because it really did.
It hit me in the heart. It just really, it saddened me, but it wasn't just me. I was talking to my friends and other people, and then going online and Facebook, and it affected a lot of people. And so John had a picture, and he shared it on Facebook, and I told him that I wanted to put it in the back of the book. And so that's what we did. And I put the suicide prevention number because, there's a lot of people out there that suffer from depression, and there's a lot of people out there that are hurting and don't have anybody to talk to. And, everybody's life is important. And I just wanted to, if one person sees that and they use that number, well, then thank God.
I agree. And if you don't want to call the suicide number, guys, reach out to anybody that you possibly can. I'll give you Vinny's number when I do the end of the show recap. You guys can text Vinny. No, I'm kidding, Vinny. I'm kidding. I won't, because you'll just get random nutsos from Can't Crusher Nation, which I love you guys, texting or calling you at 4:30 in the morning like you do to all your friends.
I do want to say something else that's special about this book. Every book that is ordered online is, while supplies last, will come with a surprise signature of about one of 12 or 13 different wrestlers that are featured in the book. And
that's pretty awesome.
So Sean Hernandez, in they're random, right? So, it's a surprise. It's done by random. So, but you can get a signature of Sean Hernandez, Bobby Fulton, Tim Storm, C.W. Anderson. You can get Mr. USA. There's a chance you could get Greg Anthony. You could get James Beard signed, and we have Chris Michaels signed, Josh Lewis, Big Ramp. Big Ramp is the manager from New Orleans, and he has, oh my gosh, he's probably pictured in that thing
100 times. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He really is.
So.
But yeah, this is a great book. One more question about this book, and then we'll let you sell it.
Okay.
Did you ever think about doing like per decades or per territory, or because this has a little bit of everything in it? Did you want it like that, or at one point was there like, hey, maybe let's do decades, start with the 60s or the 70s, or let's do just territories? Okay.
Well, here's what I had planned to do. I wanted to do a book that showed how 5 or 6 promotions were affected by COVID.
Oh.
And that was my project. And so I had reached out to a promotion in New England, one in California, one in Florida, one in Texas, and one in Colorado, and I think another place. it escapes me now. But anyway, some did the interview but didn't provide the pictures. Some provided the pictures but not the interview. And some didn't even want to some weren't even interested in doing it. And so when I was telling John Paul LeBlanc what I wanted to do, he was like, well, you should take that story and do it on the Gulf Coast, because I have all these pictures of the Gulf Coast, and we'll hit up these promotions and talk to them about it. But somewhere along the line, we decided to take the pictures that he shot from the Gulf Coast region and my short stories that I've written over the last few years and combine them together. And that, the Pro Wrestling Vault was what we came up with.
So there wouldn't be a volume 1 if there isn't a volume 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the mix, right?
I don't know about anything after 2, but there is a volume 2, and it'll be out next year.
Same time? Same bat channel?
Oh, it's a possibility. Yeah, it's a possibility. It's got a couple stories that I'm still working on, and it's going to be. I think people are going to enjoy this.
Nice. So where can we get this? What's the price point of this book, and so on and so forth?
This book runs $19.95. You can get it at lancebychance.com. Every book comes with a surprise autograph, and I think that's really neat. That
Yeah, mine's autographed by Vinny, which is awesome. And I truly mean, you're laughing right now, but you wrote a nice little note in there for me, and I love it. And
because you're my friend,
right?
You're my friend.
Who the hell would want? Who would want something signed by Robert Gibson or Ricky Morton when I can have Vinny Berry's autograph?
Well, don't get me in trouble, because I don't have Ricky Morton. I don't have Ricky Morton or Robert Gibson. But you know what? Nobody wants an autograph by me. But you know what?
I meant that when you signed this, that meant a lot. Because my wife was even like, "Oh, he signed it for you." I'm like, "He's a good guy sometimes."
More times than you know, buddy.
I know.
Hey, so thank you for having me on the show. And just, you know what? I just want the people to know that, this really celebrates pro wrestling. This book was an absolute joy to put together, and I think people are really going to be pleased with it. I think that the signed copies, the wrestlers sign these labels, we put them in the book, but I think that's a nice touch, and I'm just really happy about this, and you can get it at lancebychance.com.
Yeah, the autograph's a bonus, because this book is well worth, I'm rounding, the $20 that you're going to spend on it, because, like I said talking to Vinny earlier, you read a little passage, and then if you're old enough, you remember it. If you're not, research it, because there's a ton of stuff in this book that's going to keep you busy over the dreaded winters that we have up around here or whatever, because it brings you back. This is history in a book. It really is. And it goes back and about keeping the memories of wrestling alive, right?
Absolutely.
Vinny, I love you wholeheartedly. I truly mean that. Another great book. I'm excited for volume 2. It's like I get something and I binge read it or watch it, whatever you send me. Now I'm jonesing for volume 2. Get your ass in gear. Let's have it by my birthday, by March.
Love you too, buddy.
All right, Vinny. We'll talk to you soon. We'll get this out and everything.
Thank you.
So yeah, that was just a short little interview with Vinny Berry, one of my best friends. I have an author as a friend. How about that? Not too many people are going to have that in their side pocket. Guys, another great book by Vinny, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1. Sponsored by Wrestleville, however you want to say it. If you want to say Wrestleville, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1, you can do it that way. Make sure you head over to lancebychance.com. Get this book. I'm telling you, as I read it, the last couple nights, and just sat down. I did everything I said to Vinny, that I would read a little bit and I'll be like, oh man, I gotta look this up or something like that. That's what this book is for. It really is stories about their life, stories about something that happened in their life, but it's a reference that you can go look up more if you want to dive into it. And how about that bomb that he dropped that, some the copies are going to get with an autograph. That's really cool. And I'm not slamming Vinny. I really am happy that he signed this for me. It does mean more than getting an autograph by somebody else. Because, would I have liked the Sean Hernandez autograph? Yes. But when Vinny sends this to me, and it is with love that he sends me this book, Mark, review this and have me come on the show, we can talk about it again, that means more, because that's just, it's a wrestling community. And Vinny is great for the wrestling community. He's going to have more stories. I can't wait for Volume 2 to come out. Hopefully it is next year as well, as long as his wife allows him to write it. Vinny, I know you're listening, buddy. She will, because you're going to do well with this book. Wrestleville, the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1. Get it. It's a great stocking stuffer for wrestling fans out there in the world. So, yeah. Guys, if you have any other questions about this, you can send emails to me. I can get them to Vinny. It's cancrusher69@gmail.com. Or find me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and we'll get all this searched out as well. Don't forget to head over to our websites and, buy some merch, buy some collar and elbow merch. All that stuff will be shipped to you by Christmas. As I said, this is a great Christmas book for a wrestling fan. Buy it. Buy it, buy it, buy it. Because I know Vinny's working on part 2, but I would like to see up to volume number 10. These are going to be sitting in the studio. So if you ever want to read it, you're not coming to the studio. Buy it yourself. Remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.